the channel. Today we're talking about pressure sensors and pressure sensors in relation to misfire diagnostics. So when would you need them? Why would you need them? Once you've exhausted all your resources and you've verified it's not a fuel issue, it's not a ignition issue, not some other component in the engine bay, and you've concluded that it's most likely an internal engine issue, well, this is where the pressure sensors shine. When you pair pressure sensors with your lab scope, they're going to be your eyes into the engine. And this is one of the reasons I find it so intriguing. I have struggled quite a bit to gain what knowledge I have, so if I can save you guys that hassle and share something, you learn something, then it's a win-win for everybody. I got called out to a 2019 Tacoma with some drivability issues, and I thought that this would be a good case study to just kind of give a general overview. The best place to start, I think, it would be relative compression.
Okay, so just real quick, there's a lot you can see from a RC pattern, not just the relative compression. Let me get this green one out of the way real quick. I did want to just dabble in this. So, this first part of the amperage pattern, you can see, let's see here. You can see that's my my zero. Doesn't seem to be quite zeroed. Anyways, right here, that's where I turn the key on the ignition, and then right in here, let's see here. So right here, this is pretty cool. This is where you can see the starter solenoid gets activated, and then starts cranking the starter motor over, and that's where our peak compression is going to come from. So you can measure how much amperage your starter is pulling. Just bring your cursor down there. So like right there, you can see it's pulling right around 455 amps to crank that engine over, and then vehicle starts cranking, and then it just kind of evens out. So that's important when it comes to the evening out. So like somewhere, usually it's a lot more rocky, like when you're starting the car, and it kind of evens as you start the engine or continue cranking, and that's what we want. We also want to see a repeatable pattern, which you can see here. Got all these humps. Each one of those represents a cylinder and how much amperage it takes that engine to turn at that time. So you can see here we have a very low hump, very much so, a lot lower than the other ones. So, but then after that, so you can see it's pulling about 130 amps on that dead cylinder. Then we come up here. This is the cylinder next in the firing order. Now, being as though this previous cylinder was not contributing, this cylinder, it takes more energy for the starter to get past that and keep the momentum up due to the non-contributing cylinder. So I hope I explained that part okay. I don't know. So anyways, we need a sync. So that is where this ignition comes in. However, due to the fact it's just cranking and the engine is not actually starting, I believe it's just you're just seeing the waste spark here,
or it's sparking 360 degrees after top dead center, but it is definitely not firing uh, when it should. This could be maybe even uh, indicative of a timing issue, possibly, like a cam phaser or something, or it could be normal. I need to look into that further. Anyways, so we can't use that for our sync because it does not line up with the top dead center on number 5. But luckily, I'm going to turn that channel off. And then I'm going to bring this green trace down. That's going to be our cranking in cylinder. So, okay, yeah, I need to zoom in here. And then we're just going to go 720 degrees rotation. Let's get our cursors out. Okay, now you go to top dead center. Remember, we're in cylinder on number 5, so top dead center, we're going to see that on this trace here. And that aligns perfectly with what we're seeing on the RC, so that's our sync. We're using that for now. Anyways, the firing order on this engine is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's pretty simple. So we got 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back to 5. Now we got other cylinders with lower compression. Like I said, this engine's all gummed up. The intake valves are all carboned up, so it's gonna run rough, and the cylinders aren't gonna seal like they should. So that's that. But this dead cylinder, that's different. I believe I already mentioned it, but if not, cylinder number 5, when I stuck that camera inside the cylinder, I could see that cracked exhaust valve. I'll show you guys a picture of that now. Real quick, I just wanted to go over overlay programs. If you're wanting to get into pressure diagnostics, you may have seen uh, some of the overlays people post. Well, it's real important because you need to know what you're looking at. You're essentially mapping, you graph it, that's great, it's on the, you save the pattern, but you still need to know what's what. So like you can see here, I clicked this 1, 2, 3 icon up in the corner, and I can move that wherever I want, but what this is the firing order, so I can tell what's what cylinder am I looking at. Now, knowing our firing order is pretty simple at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that makes this pretty easy. Remember, this is our bad cylinder, number 5, with cylinder compression loss. So I'm going to start at 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so now I can tell what I'm looking at pretty easily. You can see each and every one of these cylinders goes up on its compression stroke, and then we're missing one. So that's why we got the in-cylinder out and the intake exhaust and crankcase, because I want to know where that compression loss is going to. As you can see, we'll do later, but you can add a piston chart. So we got sync on cylinder 5, 6-cylinder engine, and it's just going to ask you for the firing order. Alright, so bam, now we got our piston chart, and I'm doing my best guess here just for a quick demo, but that's what it would look like. We definitely need some more information though, but that's how you get that on there. Or I can add a memo or an arrow, so it makes mapping it out essentially a lot easier. Alright, so if you need that app, you can find it in the Microsoft Store, I believe. So I think you can just search piston chart overlay. So it's called pressure waveform overlays, and then you just want to install it, and easy peasy. It's on your computer and ready to roll. Alright, so this is where I got my, it's just Rotkee. Just rotkee.com, and you can find all kinds of, like you can find known good patterns here. If you were to go to the library, your make model, and it'll give you some known goods. Or I was just trying to show you this. So this is out of Ukraine. Usually it takes a while to get here, especially, I mean, it's kind of hard to say these days, but with the war and everything. But I've found this thing indispensable. It's got its own voltage supply, so you don't have to worry about that. You just hook it up to the battery, and I believe it converts it to a 0 to 5 volt pattern. And yeah, I mean, what you see there, that's what you get. It's this here's the sensor, and then there's the harness, and I'll try to find a picture of mine, but I put a little air fitting on a little coupler for so I could just quick disconnect for, it's a universal one, so I can use pretty much any airline or air chuck, and it'll seal up real nice. So that's pretty cool.
So what you're
I'll have to
looking
make
at
a
here
video
is
sometime.
in the green trace we got that running in cylinder, and let me just turn the ruler off for now. So yeah, what you're looking at is that running in cylinder, and I have the intake on here as well with a pulse sensor. However, just don't worry about that for now. Just focus on this green trace. I think first thing you'll notice is that these towers are not even. So that in itself indicates cylinder leakage. We already know it's got some issues. And then you'll notice the peak pressure as well. Oh man, I was almost this dead on there. Okay. So it's in bar. It's a pain in the ass. I have to convert it. You can see it has I put the 4-phase ruler on. So that's just going to be the compression there, and then this is the expansion stroke, this is the exhaust stroke, the intake stroke, and then back to compression. So if you look right here at this big pocket, oh, let me get that 0 there again. Alright, so I'm going to bring that other ruler down here. Now, like right about there, that's manifold vacuum. That's where the intake valve closes, and it starts its compression stroke.
So if I drag my cursor back down, we got 0.596, and that's in bar. It's negative, so that would be equal to about 8.644 pounds. But we're talking about vacuum, so if you want to convert that to vacuum, it would be 17.6 inches of mercury, and that is way too low. In this case, we're lucky because we know that we got a cracked exhaust valve, and it's got some other breathing issues when it comes to the induction. So, we get to see what it looks like with a cracked exhaust valve. And you can see that represented here, right where the exhaust valve opens. So, this is actually where the piston starts. It's at bottom dead center, and then it starts to go back up on its exhaust stroke. And then this is where the exhaust valve technically should open. So let's get these out of the way real quick. So if you look at that pattern there, this little dotted line, and I really hope you guys can see this, because on my screen it doesn't look like you can on the recording screen. So yeah, hopefully you can anyways. So this little dotted line, that represents atmospheric pressure. We're just at 0 psi. So right here, okay, my cursor. All right, so about here, our piston is at top or bottom dead center. And then let's see here, we're about there. It starts going back up. Now this should be, it should be opening right about here, I believe, but, well, it is. But see, it's staying in a vacuum, slight vacuum, because whatever pressure you start with, you need to end with. So as you can see here, we're starting with that much. We're going up on compression stroke. Now when we come back down into our vacuum pocket here, it should not be a bigger vacuum than manifold vacuum, if that makes sense. That indicates we've lost pressure somewhere along the way. As you can see, that cylinder stays in a vacuum until about right here. And it's that section that was really abnormal to me to begin with, and that's what kind of got me so interested in what was going on in there, and inspired me to stick the inspection camera in there. So there's that, and then you can see right here we have a let's see here, it would be, it's about 2.6 pounds of back pressure. Remember, we're just at idle here, so I found it interesting that we stayed in a vacuum for over about a third of the exhaust stroke, and then went into back pressure. So that's indicating that we have a restricted exhaust, or the exhaust valve isn't opening. You can see on this one here. So this is our zero line. Just gonna
So then if you take your other cursor up here, you can measure the back pressure. So that's 0.163 bar, and that would be about 2.37 or 2.38 pounds of back pressure. So it's not a ton, but it's you can see if you look at the atmospheric pressure line and then you look at the beak on the top of this, or this hump, that represents exhaust gases that are having difficulty exiting the chamber. So that's where you get the back pressure. It's or scavenging. It's yeah. So it's like a scavenging effect, and could even indicate, you know, I mean, this thing was running on a misfire for quite some time. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if uh, that cat is pretty fried just from all the raw fuel being dumped in it. All right, so I got that intake trace pulled down again. I believe this is actually a little fast forwarded into the capture there, but if you look here, so there's the zero line. Hopefully you guys can see that line. Now, when we're looking at this delta pressure sensor, it's going to be different than the in-cylinder. When we're looking at the in-cylinder, that's absolute pressure. We're looking at pressure in real time. This delta sensor, like I said, it's just represents changes in pressure. It's not an exact measurement. However, from the changes in pressure, we can tell quite a bit. Generally, when looking at a intake pulse, you're looking at the intake valves, like for an intake valve issue. And then, same goes for like if you were to put the sensor in the exhaust, you'd be looking for issues that would show up, due to an exhaust valve, burnt exhaust valve, or you know, broken like this one. Um, so from this intake pattern, remember, first off, it's a mess. Um, and remember that this engine is pretty carboned up. I mean, it's pretty bad. So, I think that explains a lot of the pressure changes you're seeing on this intake. However, there are certain things that stand out to me. It looks like the intake and the exhaust valves are opening and closing when they should. I can see there's a couple spots where you can especially see a disturbance. So, what we're trying to correlate is, the rhythm and the disturbance. It should be an even rhythm. So when you have a disturbance, that indicates an issue. And that's what you're seeing here. And I don't think it's super useful other than for, identifying, making sure the intake cam is where it should be. And it does appear to be. And, from a capture like this, you can tell that there's valve issues. If you have a misfire condition and um, nothing's fixed it, you might want to put a pressure sensor in the intake or exhaust, because like I said earlier, you'd be surprised what you can see, and they are extremely accurate. Here's another one. Just fast forward it a little bit. So, let's see here. Take right here, for instance. This is where number five's intake valve is supposed to be opening. You can see, if we take this bottom cursor, you can see how how far down that pole was. And then it comes up, and this is where it's starting to seal. So you're getting this broken up pattern right about here, and then this is right about when it seals. So if you want to see that represented on a piston chart, so you're going to see right about here, that's where the intake stroke starts. This is when the piston starts going down. So if we compare that to one of these other intake poles, let's look at number 3 here. So I should have used this arrow over here. Actually, I'm going to go back just so you guys are clear. You know, right there, that is when the number 5 intake valve started opening, and then if you look over here, let's see, where will be number 3? You can see its intake valve opens right there. The piston starts traveling down on its intake stroke, but the valve doesn't open immediately, if that makes sense. So, that's going to be, so right here you got the exhaust valve open, venting into the exhaust stream, and then this is where it's coming up to top dead center, and then that piston starts traveling down. And this is where the intake valve opens and introduces air from the manifold into the cylinder. So you can see the turbulence in that pattern. This misfire, you can clearly see it represented on this pattern. Even though, I mean, the intake's gummed up, but you can see that cracked exhaust valve represented on this intake. When you're in overlap, that's when the intake and the exhaust valves are open, both of them momentarily. So when number 5 is going up on its exhaust stroke, at the very end, when this intake valve opens, it's pushing exhaust into the intake and diluting the intake. And remember, number 5's exhaust valve was never really sealing because it's cracked. So when that piston starts going down on its intake stroke, and remember, when we're talking about vacuum, we're talking about the manifold vacuum right in here. So when that piston's going up on its exhaust stroke, and then it's supposed to seal, and it doesn't, this cylinder starts going down on its intake stroke, and it's sucking air in, but it's also sucking exhaust in. So that's also going to dilute the pull. The fact that this engine's so gummed up, none of the cylinders are sealing 100%. I don't think. It's just, there's so many issues on this engine, and you could sit here all day and just pick it apart. I believe that the timing chain is a little loose on bank 1. It seems to be kind of fluctuating issues. I believe that when that exhaust valve's cracked for a reason. I think that I was talking to another buddy of mine on one of these Facebook groups, and he was saying that, well, he's a Toyota tech, that this is a pretty common issue. The valve seats fall out, and or they rattle loose, and they can cause a lot of damage. So, I think this engine kind of inhaled some metal. um, that cylinder has more than just you know simple fix issues. This is gonna be a major mechanical teardown. So onto the exhaust. So for this reading, I simply just put uh, I put a tube, like a little, just a little rubber hose on the sensor, and just put it into the exhaust pipe. And they're incredibly sensitive, so it picks up all the pulses. It's honestly, it's pretty impressive. These sensors are incredibly sensitive. So let's get this on an overlay. Oh, it's like, it's really big. Okay, let's see here. All right. Cool. So that piston chart on there. We got 6 cylinders. Sync on 5. Firing order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Easy. All right. And then when putting these overlays, I like to set it up on this side, right as that piston comes up to top dead center, and then just pull this side on over, and you want it to line up right here where that arrow is with the 5, right here, not at the edge. That's pretty good. So you can see this is where the exhaust stroke starts, and this is where the exhaust valve starts to open. You can see, well, you can't on this overlay, but if you come down here, oh yeah, right here, if we get this, oh wait, I have the wrong one on. Well, let's zero that one too. Okay, bring this cursor down, and just get that right at 0. So that would be atmospheric pressure. And then, if you were to get this cursor and bring it over right about there, that's when the valve opened. And you can see this the cylinder, it goes up on its intake stroke, or it's down on its intake stroke, and then up on its compression stroke, and it starts with this amount of pressure, and it ends, it goes up on its compression stroke, and then its power stroke, and then that's at top or bottom dead center right there, right here. And then that's when the piston starts to travel back up. Right there. the cylinder is still in vacuum when this exhaust valve opens, is kind of what I'm getting at. There's the other cursor. It's the damn thing. Alright. Alright. You can see right there is where the exhaust valve closes. It's supposed to close. Right there. You can see this is where the piston starts going down, and this is where the valve opens. So I believe that's in spec. And you know, I'm just kind of doing my best experimenting with these patterns. Very thankful for the friends I have that have been, you know, so helpful along the way. It's not easy picking apart stuff like this, not for me at least, not yet. I'm getting there. You guys are coming with me. It's interesting too because sometimes this, you can see right here where the spark plug fires, and it's late. You know, well, let's get back on the Pico so you can see. So you can see this ignition timing here. Um, we're firing roughly 8 degrees after top dead center on the compression stroke there. So, you know, sometimes it's firing before top dead center. Sometimes it looks like it's right on the money. Um, and then sometimes it's like this. And, you know, I have I have it on a spark plug tester. So it's firing outside the cylinder. That might have something to do with it. It probably has a lot to do with it, honestly. But I don't feel like my ignition timing, any of my timing measurements have been super accurate thus far. I mean, I can see that it's in time. The engine's in time. Uh, but I believe that it's got a sloppy chain, like, you know, it's got a stretch chain or something of that nature. You know, some people, they like to look at it inverted. Uh, and honestly, like to me right now, that looks better. You know, you can see right here, uh, this is actually where the exhaust valve opens. Um, and you can see that represented right there, the change in direction of the pattern. However, right after, you can see this vacuum pocket. So, you know, that's going to represent a misfire. Um, and then right here when the valve closes, uh, you got another misfire. So, I mean, like I said, it's, you know, it's pushing exhaust into the intake, and this engine's not happy. So this may not be the best case study to present all of this, just because there's so many different issues, but I still thought it'd be interesting just to kind of go over. You know, you guys could see what this Toyota 3.5 looks like when it's just royally effed. So onto the crankcase, and we got some interesting things going on here. I kind of wanted to save this for last, just because we're talking about, you know, bottom end issues, and I wanted you guys to just kind of visualize what was going on up in the valve train. There was a lot going on in that video, so this video. So, you know, you could see that repetitive pattern. Let's see here. Just gonna try to blow that up a little bit. And I have a filter on. If you go up to the DSP here, you can off or active. Uh, even off, you can see it really well. I mean, you don't need the filter. Sometimes I just find it easier. So, what's going on here? Each one of you can see this just kind of flat line, and then you got a pulse here and a pulse here. Well, that's going to be crankcase pressure. So you're getting pressure past the rings in one of the cylinders. So we got to pinpoint it. If we zoom out once again, so let's get the over. You can once again see that repetitive pattern. So that's what you want to see. And then, I mean, really, you just pick anywhere where you can get a clean capture and just zoom in. So, as you can see, obviously that's very repetitive. So, we need to figure out which cylinders are contributing. Now, remember, when we're gathering this pattern, we are connected to the crankcase via the oil dipstick. So, any blow by from the rings, that's where you're going to see it. Anyways, let me get some overlays on here. And so looking at this piston chart right here, you can see, so if you look at these humps right here, that's going to be the pressure in the crankcase, the pulses. So you can notice that lines up perfectly with our compression stroke on number 5 here. Actually, you can see this is where the piston starts to go up, change its direction of travel. Well, actually about right here. So as that piston is traveling up on its compression stroke, you can see right about here as the piston starts traveling up, if you look at that blue trace on number 5 here, where that arrow on the right is, you can see how the gradual increase. Well, that starts right when that piston starts going up, and then so yeah, that's what that represents. And then the same thing goes for cylinder number 2 over there. So let's see here. So right about here, that's where number 2 starts its compression stroke, and if you can see, it's the exact same as cylinder number 5. You got that little hump. So cylinder number 5 starts its compression stroke right about there. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I covered quite a bit. I can't thank enough, guys. There's so much good content out there that if you really just look and apply yourself, you can find this information, and you too can diagnose cars with these methods. I mean, sometimes these non-intrusive testing methods, they can save hours of teardown time, or engine replacements, or I mean, the list goes on and on. What you can do with the lab scope is phenomenal if you apply yourself. Pretty much anything that you can think about testing on a car, you can test with a scope, and you can do it quicker and more reliably. Like I said, there are so many excellent trainers out there, and the information is available. As a matter of fact, I'd like to give a special thanks to, there's a couple guys that I reached out to when I had a couple questions regarding this video, and just to bounce some ideas off of, and they were nice enough to answer my call or my message. So Hakan Light and from Shotgun Diagnostics, Brandon Steckler, it's us. It's just amazing. The guy, he's a busy man, and he'll pick up the phone to help a fellow tech enhance their career.
and you know, we got a pretty good community here, so that's something that, you know, we should all take advantage of, because uh, you know, the truth is that it doesn't seem like many people use the scope. They don't apply it. It's just too hard to set up. It's too hard to learn. It's too hard to, you know, um, well, we need to turn that around. We need to get this information out there to whoever wants to learn. I'll leave links in the description for any of the tools I used in this video, and you know, some of the resources I talked about, like, you know, the snipping tool, and you know, the overlay programs. Uh, they're not that hard to get installed and start using. So, um, you know, I implore you to do so, because uh, that's phenomenal. You know, the amount of data you can get from turning the key, letting an engine idle for a few seconds. Uh, it's just, you know, blows my mind. So I'm gonna start doing some more tutorial type stuff like this, or, you know, just kind of walkthroughs. Uh, I don't know, it's just kind of different. So hope you guys enjoyed.